Morning. New slide. Same book. Still in Acts. That's good news, I think. That's good news. What does that say, church in real life? We're going to see church in real life here this morning, but we'll start with real life. Back when I played high school basketball, someone laughed before the laughter was, and kindly get out. Welcome to Woodcrest. No. I played high school basketball, and what I lacked in height, I made up for with not being able to jump high. I played hard. I remember my junior year, we made the finals of a tournament. They called it the Christmas tournament. Big holiday tournament at a local college. It was a huge deal. Like, everyone wanted to be in this thing, playing this thing. I'm not exaggerating. A couple thousand fans, and when you're in high school, that's a big deal. It was in this college arena. You'd have 4,000 or 5,000 people coming, especially to the finals. You had press. They would, interview you. You'd be in the paper. And then it wasn't just one or two, I guess two if you're playing another team, high school fan bases. It was 16. Everyone would just keep coming. And then the day of the finals, there were all the other games leading up to who gets 7th place or 6th place or whatever. And so they'd all just stay. 16 fan bases means 16 cheerleading squads. We were in the locker room before the game doing curls. We wanted my bones to really pop. We wanted to look good for the masses. Again, huge deal. Our team hadn't won this thing in 20 years, and there we were in the finals. And then it was the perfect setup, because the team that we were playing on the other side of the bracket had two upsets. 2 games, they'd won. They probably should have won the first game, but then they shouldn't have won anymore. They weren't good. And they just kept winning, which is awesome. We got to play an easy team. It was the one time in high school basketball where I was more athletic than my opponent. I look at that guy, he was a total square. He probably grew up and got into ministry or something. I was this guy, this is awesome. And so we jump ball, instantly take the lead. First quarter, we led. Second quarter, we built on that lead. Third quarter, we're gonna win the tournament. It's awesome. That we didn't notice, some parents snuck out at that point. They left. We didn't know they left, but here's why they left. How great is this? Our town was about 10 miles away. It was the town across the way. They left to go back to our home gym. After games, you go back to your gym, you put laundry on the floor, they wash it for you, put everything else ready so Monday you can have practice. They knew we were going back there, so they went before us to prepare a victory surprise party. Isn't that awesome? So we're gonna have pizza and snacks, and our siblings are gonna be there, and our friends are gonna be there, and our girlfriends are gonna be there, and our parents are gonna be there, and there's gonna be music playing. It's gonna be so awesome. It's we're winning a tournament over here, and then we're gonna have this other surprise over here. Just the best moment in life. Thing is, we lost. Fourth quarter comeback. They did. They came back on us in the fourth quarter, and then the parents who were the town over, I guess maybe were listening on the radio. Maybe they didn't even know. I never got the story, but they're we can't put this all away. The pizza's there. We gotta. And so we walk into this gym, shuffling in, just as sad as we can be, to a surprise. And it was kind of a bad one. It's like having confetti cannon at a funeral. I don't know. And we were ego-straddled young men, 17-year-olds or something, so we just went and sat and pouted in the locker room. But then I think about it later, maybe the parents were onto something. Winners don't need victory parties and parades. You win the Super Bowl, you don't need a parade. The losing team needs the parade. They lost. And sometimes it's after losses and hardships when a celebration is truly in order. And I think often that's how God moves. You think of the person in the pit of despair. They're grieving the loss of their husband, and then grieving the loss of their brother-in-law, and then grieving the loss of their father-in-law, and then going to sojourn in a land where they're going to be looked on as less than. And that's the story of Ruth. And then she's surprised by joy, surprised by a husband, surprised by romance, surprised by seeing her mother-in-law, Mara, healed and turn bitterness into joy. Or it's the captive who's freed without firing a shot. That's the story. Moses goes to Pharaoh and says, "Let my people go." And Pharaoh says, "No, I'm not letting those slaves go. There's not a chance I'm letting them go." And then a few weeks later, after some plagues, he's saying, "You can have my miles. Just get out of here. Here, we'll help pack your bags. Please go. Take them all out of here." It's the beleaguered disciples hearing about Jesus' death. Death has conquered them. They're in the upper room, cowering, hiding. More death on its way. Death coming for them. And then the knock on the door isn't death, it's Jesus asking if they had dinner plans. The graves are turned to gardens, grief to goodness, trial to joy. That God is not predictable, but he is predictably good. That's why you who are wearied and burdened today, you can come into a place like this with people like this, and you can have hope for all. That hope for all phrase means that we want every single person to experience the hope of Jesus, but it also means hope for all circumstances, all situations, all times in our lives. No matter what has happened to you or is happening to you right now or will happen to you this week, that hope is tied to God's transcendent, eternal. Your hope doesn't diminish, and God doesn't diminish as your circumstances do. He's steadfast. That's why you think about a church, or even a church like this, where you can look and see your best days in the rearview mirror, or you can realize that God's going before you as well and see it in the windshield as well. That he's gone behind you and before you. Red Sea was awesome, but behold, I'm doing the new thing. It's both. And so we come to Acts 18, and it's God knowing the score. He looks up and he sees the score. He knows the score. He knows in some ways that his people are losing, or his person is losing. He knows the score, and yet he gives the losing team an incredible victory. As God lavishing surprise after surprise upon one of his cherished sons. So we're going to examine a little bit chapter 18. I shouldn't even use the word examine because I don't want this to be an academic endeavor, rather a reminder of the play that God is forever running. It is grace in motion. It's love. It is a surprise by joy after joy. So chapter 18, verse 1, begins this way. After this, Paul left Athens and went to Corinth. So God knows the score. We should know it too. So he's left Athens. We spent a lot of time there in Athens. So what's the score looking like in Athens? Well, we get a snapshot of what the score was back in 17. We won't stay there long, I promise. But back in 17, verse 32, Paul is invited to be a conference speaker, basically. He's invited to give a talk in front of a bunch of people, and he gives a talk in front of a bunch of people, his best sermon, his mic drop sermon, logically, rhetorically, beautiful. And then verse 32 of 17 says, when they, the audience, heard about the resurrection of the dead, what he was preaching about, some of them sneered. Paraphrase, he gets laughed out of town. That's what happens in Athens. He gives his best shot, and it's not good enough. Now, some are curious. It says that. Some are curious and want to learn more. And then it says some follow, and then it lists who follows. It lists a single man, a single woman, and then says a number of others. And when someone says a number of others, what they don't mean is thousands. There was a revival with a number of people. No. A revival with a number of people is very few people. That's the paraphrase. That's what they're trying to get to. That's the jargon. A number is not thousands. A number is not hundreds. I think this number that we're talking about, who actually followed out of Athens, you go in a Waffle House, you don't need the whole place. You need one booth, maybe two. That was the fruit. So Paul preaches his best sermon, and then nothing much happens. Like, amen, brother. I do it every week. Every time I'm up here, I'm like, that's the one. That's the one. Someone's, oh yeah, this is the one. And then someone comes up to me crying. I was like, finally, we're going to lead someone to the Lord. He's like, do you know where the bathroom is? Like, that's why you're crying. It's back there. So I can relate with this. And so that's how Paul is with Athens. And then he stumbles into this new place. So now in the searching, in the healing, in the hurting, he's going to varsity. What he doesn't know, or actually kind of what he does know, is that he had been scrimmaging with the JV in Athens. Athens was a secular place. It was a pagan place in some ways, but it's also like a congenial place. It's a place for ideas, a place for intellect. All right? And now he's going to Corinth. That's varsity. Corinth is Vegas. We're talking like Saturday night Vegas. We're talking Saturday night during a conference for hedonists during a fight weekend, Vegas. That's what he's walking into. It's this port city. So people from the east would come there, people from the west would come there just to stay over for a bit. What happens in Corinth stays in Corinth. They had gods on gods on gods. They had beliefs on beliefs on beliefs. No one really followed anything. They just kind of went by wherever the wind blew. There's about 600, maybe 700,000 people. They had 1,000 registered prostitutes in that town. Those are the ones you knew about. For just 600,000 people, there was 1,000 who were, they had a marketing campaign. We found it archaeologically. There's evidence of this, that on the docks there were like embedded footprints that you could follow. And it said like, follow this to your destiny. And it led to different brothels in town. Like, they would market this. There was a phrase during that day to Corinthianize. Everyone would say, oh, I'm going to go to Corinthianize. And what that meant is basically to punt on morality entirely, live immorally. You're going to make your life into TVMA, TV mature for all kinds of reasons, but one of them was going to be sexual content. In fact, if you're sitting here and you're maybe in a relationship and you're a dude here and your woman gets called a Corinthian woman, you better bow up. That's fighting words. You don't want to be called a Corinthian woman. That was the phrase in the world of like a woman with loose morals. She's kind of a Corinthian woman. They knew it. So if Athens would sneer at you, what is Corinth going to do? Corinth's going to smack you around. And so Paul is beat up in Athens. He's having like a metaphysical crisis. He's staggered a bit. And now he's walking in this place that's going to be even worse. I'm sure he's catastrophizing the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, surprise. We get our first of many surprises here. It's like that Randy Newman song plays. You know the Randy, you got it, however he sings it. Like, I love Randy Newman songs. The Toy Story song, he does tons of songs. He made all these songs, none of them are hits, and then someone else takes them and they're hits. But he sings like his mouth is full of mashed potatoes. That's what's playing as Paul saunters in. Because it's this first surprise, and the first surprise is this: he makes friends. In this place where there's no way there's going to be friends. So after this, Paul left Athens and went to Corinth. Verse 2. There he met a Jew. Paul's a Jew. Whoa, we got some of the same stories. We celebrate some of the same holidays. We sort of have a similar look about us. I know you. He met a Jew named Aquila, a native of Pontus, who had recently come from Italy with his wife, Priscilla, because Claudius had ordered all the Jews to leave Rome. Paul went to see them, and because he was a tent maker, as they were, he stayed and worked with them. Every Sabbath, he reasoned in the synagogue, trying to persuade Jews and Greeks. What happens to Paul is what happened to my kid. He went to kindergarten for the first time. He was a little bit nervous. He's a little bit introverted. I'm a little bit introverted. He gets it from me. He went into kindergarten worried he was going to be wearing the wrong things, get made fun of, look the wrong way, say the wrong thing. And he came home, he's like, Charlie's in my class. He had a friend, so he's all good. Usually we're all good if we got a friend. This is how it works with Gallup. They do polls every year, and they say the number one indicator of workplace contentment and workplace retention is the answer to the question, do you have a best friend at work? If your answer is yes, you like your job. If your answer is no, you're going to leave soon. He went and he got a best friend at work. They were tent makers, which means they made tents. They put up tents. They're the local Coleman operation. Or they worked with leather. I don't know, but those are the things that they did. So we got a whole bunch of bad that's going on. Bad that Paul's been beat up pretty good in ministry. And this second missionary journey isn't necessarily going well. That's bad that he's been beat up. Bad that it's not going that well right now in ministry. Bad that Aquila and Priscilla have been exiled. They're no longer allowed to live in their land. In fact, this is great because this is a historical marker that helps us give the date. And this is something extra biblical you can find. This edict happened in 49 AD. Real life thing. You're like, the Bible's made up. Well, some of it isn't because that really happened. They got kicked out of Rome, AD 49, all the Jews did. The reason the Jews got kicked out was because Jews were causing a disturbance. And Rome wasn't sure what the disturbance is, but it had something to do with something like called Christ or something like that. And so we don't know what that is. We can't discern your religious scruples. So all the Jews just got to go. That's what happened. And this is great little historical links, but we got bad. It's bad to get kicked out of your home. And then we have this great good that happens. This is a meet cute of ministry. That these folks become partners, and not just like temporary partners. They become like best friends. Aquila and Priscilla get written about 6-7 times in the Bible. How vibrant they are, how awesome they are, how mentoring they are, how involved they are, how close they are with Paul. They're friends forever. We also have this picture. It's cool. We get to see a different kind of church strategy. We get to see bivocational ministry. That's why they're tent makers. They don't want to take the money of Corinth to do it. So they do a job 9 to 5 through the week, and then on Saturdays, they go to the tabernacle and they preach to the people there who are practicing kind of a different religion. And I'm hoping they had Sundays off. I don't know. Maybe it's Chick-fil-A tents. I'm not sure. But if they had Sundays off, then they did church together, and then they go right back to work. And it's like there's a biblical precedent for this, just like there is for vocational ministry. What the point is, we can do it different ways. There are different ways to do it. Bivocational ministry is awesome for some ways because Paul is in the world. He's out making tents. So every day he's in the world. He knows exactly what the world is saying, thinking, feeling. He's out there with them. Also, you're less compromised because his job isn't dependent on what he says or doesn't say. He can still eat and preach, and those things aren't combined. So there's an advantage there. Also, it's not going to be an economic strain on the early church there in Corinth. So this is a great model. It's a different model, but it's a fine model. But what we see out of this bad to this great good is that God is unpredictable in his goodness, but he is predictably good. In a very hard season, in the hardest of all places, you've got a friend in me. Laughter rang out as these people worked together and lived together, got to know each other, shared stories. This is a great surprise. He didn't see that coming. And now you're like, okay, we're out of surprises. Nope, God's just getting started. We come to verse 5. It says, when Silas and Timothy came from Macedonia, Paul devoted himself exclusively to preaching, testifying to the Jews that Jesus was the Messiah. Silas and Timothy. So Paul just made these 2 new friends. I got these new friends. It's so exciting. And then his 2 old friends show up. You ever had that happen? You're in a hard season of life, and all of a sudden a college roommate just rings your doorbell like, I was passing through town. I wanted to catch up. Or you get a text message like, hey, I'm coming through Columbia. You want to get together? And it's like high school friend. It just like lifts your spirits. It's so amazing. That's what happens. The brotherhood of the traveling pants is back together. Like, these are my new friends. These are my old friends. Let's all get together. Let's have a potluck. This is going to be amazing. It's this time of, but here's the problem. Paul loved the church in Macedonia. We talked about it a month ago. Church in Macedonia, that's Philippi. That's the one with Lydia where Paul joined the women's group. He's like, are my girls okay? Like, and now these guys are showing up. These guys are showing up. They're supposed to be there. And you're here? Uh-oh. That's like the aunt who you haven't talked to in a while calls you, and you're like, oh, I don't know. Silence. She calls again. Silence. She calls the third time. You're like, oh, man, my uncle must be in trouble. That's what Paul's thinking. And so he's surprised by these friends joining in, but then he's even more surprised because you know what they say? We're here because Macedonia doesn't need us. They are thriving. They have local leadership. They're growing. They're starting churches. It's this great news that they share. And you're like, okay, that's good on good. There can't be any more good. You know what else they do? Oh, the reason we're here is because they had this for you. And then they give them a brick of cash. Those people wanted to give you a gift. You can find this in Philippians 4. It's hinted at in Corinthians. He wouldn't take money from Corinth because if he took money from Corinth, they'd say, yeah, he's a charlatan. He's just in here taking our money. They're very materialistic. So he's like, I will not take money from Corinth. From Philippi, sure. And that's why it says in here, now he devotes himself exclusively to preaching. He went and put his 2 weeks in at the tent factory. Boss, I'm out. Why? I won the lottery. The lottery of Lydia. They sent us some dough. And so now I can go even more at this in a full-time capacity. It's great. And he's scared. He's in this weird town. And then we get to see what happens. The byproduct of Silas and Timothy coming, the byproduct of these other new friends coming into his life. We get to see it in verse 6. But when they, the people he is preaching to exclusively, his audience, the Jews and the Greeks, especially the Jews at this point, but they opposed Paul and became abusive, he shook out his clothes in protest and said to them, your blood be on your own heads. I'm innocent of it. From now on, I will go to the Gentiles. There was a fit. They're giving him a tantrum, so he gives them a tantrum right back. It's bold. Before, maybe he'd have to go chameleon mode. He'd be like, okay, maybe you guys are right. I'll be back tomorrow. This time, he's like, I've had enough. The equivalent in our vernacular would be, I wash my hands of this. I wash my hands of this whole thing. I came, I shared the gospel. You guys are making a mockery of it. Deuces. I'm out. He has this boldness. And I wonder where the boldness came from. Because again, he's beat down in ministry. It didn't go that well in Athens. This is like the least confident version of Paul we see somewhat biblically. And I think part of that probably came from an acceptance of God, which is modeled in how we church well. What I mean is we come into church across socioeconomic lines, racial lines, voting lines, party lines, whatever you want to call it, age gaps, gender, whatever. We come and we accept each other. And the reason we accept each other is because God accepts us. And that's a notion that reinforces courage over fear. So Paul gets in a small group with some friends, and the friends remind him, we love you, and we love you anyway. That's what friendship does. If we use the churchy word, that's what fellowship does. We come together, and that's a great thing. That's a great word for us. If we are together and we go make our tents during the week, we come back here on Sundays as a big gathering to say, look each other in the eye and reinforce dignity, reinforce love, reinforce hope. And don't you go out Monday different if you can accept that? Because when we accept that, and we're reminded that, man, these people can accept me, as flawed as I am, they can accept me and they can love me. You know what? That comes from God. God accepts me and loves me. So now whether the world out there on my Monday accepts me or rejects me, I know this, that the God of the universe loves me enough to die for me and has adopted me eternally into his family. If that don't make you bold, nothing will. That's what happens. These friends come into his life, born to him, and he's like fired up. And so then he goes and he throws a fit. Like they're throwing a fit. He's like, I'll show you a fit. And he's yelling at him. He's the kicking out your clothes and stuff. That comes from Nehemiah. There's a passage in Nehemiah where you do that. And then when Jesus sends out his followers, he sends them out and he says, the towns or the houses that don't accept you, you're going to shake your dust off. Basically like just saying, again, I'll wash my hands of you. I'm done. But he's yelling at them, and then I think he goes outside to do the dust thing. He's like spinning around like a Tasmanian devil. They're like peeking through the blinds, like he's still out there, and he's mad. And it's just hilarious scene. It's like this, okay? Marital fight, you ever get in those? If you're married in here, you ever have a fight? Maybe if you're divorced in here, you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay? If you're married in here, you ever have that fight? This happens sometimes. It's just hypothetical. Like maybe you do something wrong, like order the Mexican wrong or forget to pay taxes for the third year in a row. It's just little stuff. And all of a sudden, your wife, she just like has enough and she's like, you're the worst. She might put it differently, but she says, you're the worst. And then you're like, okay, you're the worst. And I lied. I don't even like those jeans. And then she's like, okay, you're bald. And you're like, okay, there's things you say and there's things you don't say. That's a bridge too far. But here's how it happens, right? In marriage, you know this is how it happens. It's bedtime. This all happens as you're getting under the covers. So then what do? It's like, well, I'm wise enough to know I'm not going to sleep on the couch. My back will hurt, and I'll have a terrible day. She's wise enough to know it's not her job to go sleep on the couch. So what you do in that marital squabble, you just kind of like, in your queen-size bed, you usually sleep like a foot apart. Now you're a foot and 4 inches apart. You both just kind of turn a little. That's what Paul does. He throws this massive fit. He's like, you're never going to see me again. I'm done with this. I wash my hands of you. I'm doing the Tasmanian devil thing. And then it says, verse 7, then Paul left the synagogue and went next door to the house of justice, a worshiper of God. He slams the door, turns, opens this one and goes in. And he's like, boy, these walls are paper thin. I can hear everything they're saying about me over there. It's this ludicrous thing that happens in biblical humor, but I love the symbolism here. You catch the symbolism? Right next door in Corinth, everyone hears the tantrum, everyone knows the fits, there's an uproar going, there's some fervor going on. And we got door A, world's door, door B, God's door. You just walk by and you see them. We have those choices in our world, right? Where you can walk by and you can see it. These options are just so clearly delineated by God. Here it is. Do you want to live in kingdom A or do you want to live in kingdom B? Do you want to live in the land of law where you got to keep up with the Joneses, you got to pretty yourself up to have access to God, you got to be better than everyone else, especially your neighbor, and you got to let them know you're better than them so you can climb that next rung and get closer to God. It's a never-ending ladder, and we think we can get there fast, but just by climbing faster we can get to the top. You want to live in that land of law, or do you want to enter the door of grace? It's right there. And so is Paul. He's right there. And I think he's in that house being like, they just don't understand it, what's going on, and I shouldn't have lost my cool. I got upset, and now, like, man, I'm pacing this. I'm going to have to catch a ship out of here. There's no way this is going to go anywhere. I gave a great speech over there, and no one took it, and now I acted like a fool. No one's definitely going to take this. It's all gone to rot. And then, surprise, verse 8. None of this makes sense. Crispus, verse 8. I call him Coco. Crispus, the synagogue leader, the leader of the synagogue where Paul just threw a fit, the boss, the senior pastor, that guy of a different faith, doesn't believe in Jesus, that guy who was like kind of kicking Paul out, that guy who was like, that guy's crazy, don't listen to him. All of a sudden, he and his entire household believed in the Lord, and many of the Corinthians who heard Paul believed and were baptized. What? Isn't that wild? Paul's got to be scratching his head. He's like, I did so well over there, and nothing happened. And now I didn't do so well. I threw a tantrum, and God's like, yeah, I saw that. It was awesome. Eating popcorn, I got you. And he makes this great thing happen because the synagogue leader, that's a huge get. That person is steeped in wisdom. People listen to him. And all of a sudden he says, yeah, guys, we've been doing this. We think it's wisdom, but there's this new thing that is actually wiser. I'm going. Who's going with me? And a bunch of them are like, I'm in, coach. They go with him. And it sets up this weird calamity. The calamity will happen in verse 9. The calamity is this: good news, we got Coco Crispus. We got him. That's a huge get. That was what we wanted. That's who we wanted when we came in this town, and we got him. The bad news, we got Crispus. You get why that's bad news. Thus far in his life, Paul has been mocked repeatedly. He's been beaten. He's been arrested. He has been left for dead. Like literally, they took his pulse. He's dead. We can walk away. He's been left for dead. And now he's turned the Jewish culture in the hardest place on earth to do Christianity on its head. This is not going to go well. And we know Paul knows it's not going to go well because of verse 9. It says, one night the Lord spoke to Paul in a vision. Now, why is Paul having visions at night? Because he isn't sleeping. Can't sleep. Because he's afraid. You're like, how do you know he's afraid? Why does God say things? What's the next thing God says? Do not be afraid. Paul's scared. He is scared that this thing's going to get out of control. He's scared this is going to be the end of the ministry. He's scared that this could cause great personal harm, that he won't get to finish his task, whatever. He's afraid of something. God doesn't say stuff that doesn't need to be said. God doesn't say to me, like, don't be strong or something. He doesn't need to say that. He says, do not be afraid because Paul is afraid. And he says, keep on speaking. Do not be silent, for I am with you. Surprise. I don't give you a book. I don't give you a tactic. I don't give you that. I give you friends. Yeah, I give you all kinds of, you know what else I give you? I give you myself. My comfort comes in the version of me. That's the most oft-repeated command in Scripture. You know this. Do not be afraid. And it's almost always followed with, do not be afraid. Why? I am with you. How can you be afraid? If God is for us, who can be against us? God gives us himself. This is with Jesus. He says, go therefore in all the world and make disciples, baptizing in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey the commandments, all that. And what does he say at the end? Lo, I will be with you, even to the end of the age. Because to go and make disciples is going to be scary. There's going to be restless nights where you can't sleep. You're worried about what's going to happen. The world is going to reject you in some ways. But if you do the go, you get the lo. You want to experience God? You're like, man, my faith is kind of stagnant. Go, and he will be with you. I'm kind of afraid. Yep, he's with you. If you're scared today, if the world's spinning a bit too fast, if relationships are afraid, if health is dubious and you're waiting on some stuff, what God will give you is better than what any other thing gives you. He gives himself. What kind of God is this? It's a surprising one, but he's unsurprisingly good. And why does he say, don't be afraid? He says this, I am with you, and then he says, and no one is going to attack and harm you because I have many people in this city. But Paul's got to be like, no, I'm in Corinth, God. Your GPS is broken. I'm in Corinth. You have no one. You have my friends. That's it, no one. Now we got this new guy, and he has some people, but this is Corinth. Well, this is a biblical idea that can get kind of weird, and we won't go into it too long today. But it's this idea of election. That God has chosen people. He's chosen people before the beginning of time to be with him forever in his family. You're like, well, if that's true, then why do we need to preach? Why do we need to say stuff? Why do we need to tell our neighbors? Why do we need to invite them? Because that's our role in it. That he made the earth, he made the seeds, he planted the seeds, he watered the seeds, he grew up the seeds, and then he says, hey, you want to do the fun part? I'll be Johnny Appleseed, you walk the orchards. You just like shake the trees and they fall out. He says the harvest is plentiful, the workers are few. I know some workers. Y'all want to do the fun part? No, you don't have to do the hard. I've done the hard part. Go get them. Go gather them up. Go collect them. It's this beautiful thing that he does involving us in this. And if he has people in Corinth, I don't think Columbia's off the table. Fulton, Boonville. If he has people in Corinth, he probably has people in our place too. He's planted and he's grown and he's ready for us to harvest. Even today, there's someone in this place or someone watching online who's going to be like that synagogue leader and come to faith, and everyone's going to be super surprised. God isn't. There's no alarm in heaven. There's an alarm that a party started, maybe. There's no alarm like, oh my gosh, that guy. No, he's like, oh yeah, that guy. I've known him since the beginning. I've been excited. He's known you all along, and oh, how he's loved you. And then we get another surprise. Verse 11. This doesn't happen to Paul very often. This is crazy. Verse 11 is, so Paul stayed in Corinth for a year and a half, teaching them the word of God. For 18 months, he gets to be in his flow state. He gets to do the thing he's best at, that he's called to. He's always getting run out. He's always having to move. 18 months, he gets to make a place a home. A stranger in a strange land, Paul gets to feel the sweetness of home, doing what he loves to do best with some of the people he loves the most in the world. And then some of us are this way. Maybe that's the season you're in, but we can't actually kind of enjoy it. Why? Because we know how life is. The other shoe always drops. Like my kids right now are all pretty healthy, kind of well-behaved. Well, I know today's going to be bad. It's been 13 days without an accident. Here we go. 13, unlucky number. We start catastrophizing, right? Things are going good. The bad stuff's coming. It's coming. Here we go. It's going to be evil lurks. There's traps set everywhere. Here it comes. Well, it happens in Corinth. The other shoe drops. Verse 12. Well, Gallio was proconsul of Achaia. So Gallio, he's a big deal. That's another historical tie. The proconsul there. This is extra biblical. He's there. He's got a famous brother. He's kind of famous himself, but his brother's even more famous. This guy named Seneca. Seneca, we still quote Seneca. We might not know we're quoting Seneca, but everyone has plagiarized Seneca. Seneca was brilliant. He had a bunch of wise stuff to say. Seneca was a big deal in their society. He also came up with Stoic philosophy, which became the main philosophy of Rome. We still use a lot of Stoicism today. Another thing about Seneca is he was tutor to a guy named Nero. Nero was this punk kid who had this tutor, and this punk kid was going to be part of a rebellion and become one of the meanest Caesars to ever rule. So this guy was tied to the very top. In fact, that Caesar ends up killing Seneca or making him kill himself, and then probably killing Peter and also killing Paul later. So isn't this weird, this 6 degrees of separation? But it means this guy's a big deal. Gallio. He's got a big deal brother. He ruled in this place from 50 to 52 AD, which lines up with the exile. So all this is historically kind of lining up, the timelines, the dates. He also has a famous nephew who's a poet. So this guy's just well connected to society, big deal kind of guy. And what's happening in 12 is they're taking Paul to him. So Gallio was the proconsul of Achaia. The Jews of Corinth made a united attack on Paul and brought him to the place of judgment, the Bema seat. This man, they charge, Paul, is persuading the people to worship God in ways contrary to the law. Paul's like, here it goes, the other shoe. Here comes death. This is not going to end well. And he clears his throat. Find people. And Gallio goes, shh, you don't get to talk. I talk. Paul doesn't even get to defend himself. And this is kind of like, remember the old Bugs Bunny cartoons where Elmer Fudd's hunting rabbits? And Bugs Bunny like ties the gun, and so it like backfires and like blows off his hat and his hair or whatever. Or he sticks a carrot in the muzzle or whatever, he does that. That's what we're going to see happen here. So Paul's like, it's over. This is not going to go well. Just as Paul was about to speak, 14, Gallio said to him, if you Jews were making a complaint about some misdemeanor or serious crime, it would be reasonable for me to listen to you. But since it involves questions about words and names and your own law, settle the matter yourselves. I will not be judge of such things. So he drove them off. He sided with Paul in front of everyone. And again, big deal guy. So this doesn't mean he just sided with Paul once and that's it. This would become sort of a law that had precedence, especially in that area where other times Christians got pulled before a proconsul. They'd say, well, Gallio said, brother of Seneca, that we're okay. Basically, this put Christianity on the approved religions list of Rome. That decision. It was huge. They're grafted in now. It is another major surprise from an unsurprising God. And now, surprise within a surprise, Inception style. It keeps going. Verse 17, so he drove them off. And then the crowd there turned on Sosthenes, the synagogue leader, so the other one, the other synagogue leader, the other big deal guy. He learned in Judaism. And they beat him in front of the proconsul, and Gallio showed no concern whatever. So the person who grabbed Paul and wasted the proconsul's time, they wanted to keep favor with the proconsul, so they took him and said, he's a bad lawyer, he did a bad case, we're gonna do a bad thing to him to like wash our hands of this so we don't have any bad blood between us. They beat him up. They beat this guy up. Paul was supposed to be beaten, this guy gets beaten instead. The leader of the movement trying to get Paul. So Sosthenes is beaten for opposing Paul and failing. He's already an adversary to Christianity. He's the antagonist. And now he's beaten because of Christianity. He's learned worldly, and he's in a ruling position in Vegas, in Corinth. So this guy's going to cause a problem later. This guy is going to be a thorn in the side of the movement, and there's no chance, right? Not him. 1 Corinthians 1:1. Paul's writing a letter to Corinth. And look what he says. Paul, called to be an apostle of Christ, Jesus, by the will of God, and our brother, Sosthenes. Like my bro. Sosthenes is traveling with Paul now. Got beaten for Paul accidentally, tried to get Paul killed, and now he's a brother. If that's not gospel unity, I don't know what is. This dude's a prodigal. This guy's way far from the movement. He's the lost sheep. He's the enemy. And now he's my dear brother, and we're writing a letter home, letting you know he's with me, he's doing great, and we're doing big things together. Only the gospel can do that. Only Jesus can reconcile so completely, so beautifully. And we won't go through all of this, but the surprises keep coming. One surprise is that Paul actually takes a break. He heads home. He gets asked to do some other, hey, we got a conference. Will you come speak here? We got this town. Will you come speak here? And he's like, no, I need to go home. I need to go to Antioch, my sending church, report back to them, and rest. That's a good word for some of us. That we don't rest from ministry. Rest is a part of ministry. He's like, I got to get home. I got to rest a little. But while he's resting, you know who isn't? Priscilla and Aquila. They keep going. It's not their time to rest. We're going to Sabbath in a little bit. We have our sabbatical coming, but right now we're going to keep working. And in their work, they uncover Paul's replacement, Apollos. Apollos is this young dude who's super smart, great speaker, and they take him and they mentor him, they tutor him. He becomes Paul's replacement in that area. He stands on the shoulder of giants. This is why Paul talks about him. That Paul planted, Apollos watered, God makes the growth. They go and find Paul's junior understudy, his junior pastor who's going to take over. It's just multiplication and movement and providence happening. So much good, so much providence. This beleaguered follower, this man, starved for fruit, for harvest, just gets to see copious amounts of harvest from out of nowhere in such unpredictable ways. The defeat is turned on its head, that victory replaces it. There's a big old surprise party. even though he felt like he was losing. I recall this one season of speaking. I was in ministry, and like, anytime, if you try and do something, if you haven't done anything for God, like tried to like put yourself out there, find your gift and employ it, like at work or something, the first time you do, probably the first dozen times, God rewards it. It's like, I don't know, he wants to build up our confidence or something. So I remember giving this talk to, 200 high schoolers. They were like 17-year-olds. And I give this 30-minute talk. It was like the fourth one of the week. It was a camp setting. And I give this talk, and then a guy plays music, does a wonderful job, and they wouldn't leave. So I'm back up there. You don't get an encore. I got an encore. It's like, let's roll again. Earlier, I read some of John this morning in my devotion. Here's what I think John's saying. I just kind of preach. Hopefully, Holy Spirit inspired. I don't know. I just said stuff. Played more music. They wouldn't leave. They stayed for like 4 hours. They could be playing Night Capture the Flag. We were supposed to go like an hour, 45 minutes tops, because kids can't handle this. And these 17-year-olds like, we want more. It's like, dang. You give a talk, and all these people would come to the altar. It was awesome. Home runs. You got to see, you felt like, man, applause, kind of. And then it stopped. Things just got quiet. The only thing that would come at you is complaints. Too fast, too long, too many stories, not enough stories, too many jokes, not enough jokes. You said this, did you mean that? It's like, man, what am I doing? Strikeouts. It's a season of defeat. I remember that season of defeat clearly. And then my wife and I moved to Columbia, and I remember she was going out of town one weekend, and when the cat's away, the mice will play. She went out of town. She's like, here's the fridge. Here's what you can eat each meal. I'm gone. As soon as her car was out of the neighborhood, I'm in the car going to Arby's. It's like, I know what I'm doing. There's a Star Wars marathon on. I'm supposed to paint a room. I'm paint a room. I'm sitting in my underwear. I'm going to watch Star Wars. I'm going to eat really bad fast food every single meal. Let's go. And so I'm serious. I'm going to Arby's. And all of a sudden, I started thinking about that season of defeat. I started thinking about the silence of God. I started thinking about the temporary nature of things. I started thinking about painting a wall, because that's what I was going to do. I was going to paint. Something about painting a wall, especially when you're living in a house that you hadn't lived in before, you're almost erasing those other people. It becomes a new thing for you, but it's like taking the old of them and just kind of whitewashing it, just disappearing it. And I was like having like this metaphysical sort of quandary going on as I pull into Arby's. So I pull into Arby's, and it's like, was sunny, and you think I'm making this up, wasn't? All of a sudden the clouds rolled in, you knew it was going to storm. I was like, of course. And all of a sudden I didn't want Arby's anymore. I was like, I'm out of here. But it's that one where you're up against the brick wall. It's on West Broadway. You pull into that, it's a point of no return. Abandon all hope, all ye who enter here. You're not going anywhere. You're just stuck there because there's a brick wall on this side and there's cars behind me now. So I can't put it in reverse. I'm locked into Arby's. The clouds swirl in. And so I always get the same thing. I get a roast beef sandwich. I get mozzarella sticks. I put it on there. I drizzle the marinara. I sent this idea to them. They should make it a menu item. They sent me a $5 gift card back. Nice people at Arby's. And so I get my meal, and it's always a different cost because, I don't know, inflation or whatever else. Again, you'll think I'm making up. I kept the receipt. She says, okay, I got your meal. Your total is $6.66. I was like, 666, this is the end. Lightning strike me now. Like, I can't get out. There's no way out. That's much like life. There's no way out. I'm like Nietzsche sitting there in line. It's terrible. I pull up. I give her my credit card. She gets my stuff ready, whatever. She brings me back the credit card. She's like a 17-year-old girl. I don't know, maybe 18, young. She says, aren't you Matt Gordon? And I was like, I've seen How to Catch a Predator. I was like, no, listen, like I'm framed. Like I was like, I don't know you. I didn't. I was like, no idea who this person was. And she knew my name first and last. Maybe she looked at the credit card, but I was like, what is happening? She goes, you spoke at a camp 2 years ago. It was in my dry season. It was in the down part. She goes, you spoke at a camp, and I didn't know what was going on at me at the time, but it changed my life. And on that day, I started following Jesus, and for 2 years, I've been walking with him, and he's changed everything for me. Here you go, thanks. And she walked back in. And Arby's. I was like, we've got the meats, give it to me. It was like, it never tasted so good. I like painted that room in like 10 minutes. It was amazing. Like, that's what he does. You can't always see what God's doing. Or maybe you can. What you see is his left hand. And he's doing some left-handed things. You're like, why is he with his left hand allowing this pain in my life? Why is he with his left hand maybe like plugging his ear? Why is he with his left hand letting me lose this championship? I want to win so badly. What you don't see is the right hand. Maybe it's gone across town and it's preparing a party for us across the street. Maybe it's welcoming these unpredictable surprises. God is ambidextrous. He's got both hands working all the time. We don't get to see it all, but he is working. His providence is providencing. We may be running out the clock in a losing game, but he's preparing a party over here. So 4 quick takeaways. Do with these what you want. First one, be faithful. wherever you are. Maybe it's in a good season, maybe it's a dry season. I don't know. But just be faithful because he is. And when we are faithful, we're just reflecting back an attribute of God back to him. He loves that so much. This is what glory is all about. Some of you need to hear that today because you're getting ready to quit. Be faithful. Be faithful. Second, take heart. We see this with Paul. I'm with you. He's with you. He might be in a quiet season. He might be preparing something. You might be down in the fourth quarter, but he's with you and he's doing a thing. That's the third one, is don't give up. What does Jimmy V say? Don't give up, don't ever give up. Don't give up, because it would be a shame to stop short of the surprise, right? To quit right before something amazing is, oh man, I could have been part of that. I could have said that word. I could have been part of the harvest. The fourth is seek his unpredictable goodness, and we can do so by recognizing the pattern. That it's not like some simplistic pattern, that God's not like this math equation, but there are some like earmarks of the pattern, and we see those in the story of Jesus. That Jesus shuffled into a town called Jerusalem, and he was arrested. And he took his beating, and he marched up a hill, or was marched up a hill, and then he hung in shame, he hung in defeat. The clouds came like that day in Arby's. Metaphysical quandary, why have you forsaken me? The sky darkened, death defeated him. Surprise. Sunday. But Sunday came. The right hand was at work. Sunday came in victory with it, and Jesus walked, talked, and lived, and the sun came out in all senses of the word sun. And that's why we do communion. It's a reminder of that pattern that we have bread here, and we'll take the bread, and bread, to even have bread, it's a kind of a violent process. It's beaten and it's kneaded. We take it and eat it, and it nourishes us, just as Jesus does. And then wine, you spill that out. If I were to spill that, which I might do, that's why I'm keeping my distance. If I were to spill this, all of a sudden it's splattered, like, ooh, that kind of looks like blood. It's blood spilled. And yet, when we take it in, we take Christ in, it is like the blood that's filling our veins and capillaries and arteries, and it's making our hearts new. That death becomes delight. That surprises wait. That there's a surprise party even in defeat. That death is not the end, that life wins. And that's what we get to celebrate. And the way we do it here, it's not fixed, so if you want to like break the mold a bit, you can. But we'll have a station here, we'll have a station in the middle, we'll have a station here. And this gospel, it kind of works inside out. We do it the opposite here with our communion. You're going to go outside, take it, and go back in to your row. The first row will go, and then you can follow. If you get out of order, you're praying, you need to wait a bit, no big deal. Over here, we'll do the same thing, outside, in, middle. You guys pick, all right? And you lead the way. You can go to whatever line is the shortest. There's a gluten-free one over there. And for some people, this is very somber because you're thinking of Jesus dying for your sin. Maybe you're confessing. It's beautiful. Be in that moment. For some people, it's like, surprise party. I was defeated. I was sick, and now I'm well. I was blind, but now I see. Whatever your disposition is fine. But if you're a believer, or you want to be a believer, if you want to follow Jesus, you want to lean into his story, his life that he's given you, that surprise, that great surprise, we invite you to join us in communion. In saying what a sweet, sweet surprise God has given us, and that we cannot wait to see what he has in store next. Let me pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for these people. If we could pray one by one over all of them, because we all have something we're scared of. We all have something we're fearful of. Or maybe we have something we're celebrating, something we're grieving. But you know. You even tell us that if we don't have the words to pray, we can just make utterances and like you'll translate them, and your spirit knows. And so I just pray that you would be with every heart here. Give them yourself. I don't know what they need. You do. So I pray whatever that expression is, that you would just fill the void in their life, fill the empty, bring the sun. Again, I thank you they're here. I don't think it's an accident. Just as Paul makes friends in this weird way and paths cross, our paths have crossed today, and it's on purpose. Fill us with that purpose. Let us know what it is. Whisper to each heart. Again, let us have common union. Let us take communion well together. And let us leave into our Monday filled. Again, I thank you for this place. I thank you for this people. I thank you that we can do life together, real people on a real journey. Pray this in Jesus' name. Table's open.